All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the Chiefs moving to Kansas or not moving to Kansas, getting funding from Kansas, getting funding from Missouri. All kinds of things are going on. And I want to talk about the Chiefs' chances of staying in Missouri and whether or not that's even a good thing for the residents of Kansas City, specifically Jackson County. So a little bit of backdrop. The Chiefs currently have a lease with the Truman Sports Complex until 2031. So right now, everyone take a breath, take some fresh air. The Chiefs are not moving anytime soon, and they might not move at all, but that 2031 date is when the Chiefs' lease ends with the Truman Sports Complex in Jackson County. So there's time for the Chiefs and the Royals to figure things out before they decide to make moves. Now, the Chiefs are inexorably tied to the Royals because of the Truman Sports Complex. So if the Royals leave, that'll open some room for the Chiefs at the Truman Sports Complex. Or if the Royals leave Missouri, the Chiefs may want to do something similar. But they are not forced to be in the same location. There's nothing saying that the Chiefs and the Royals have to be playing in the same complex. They made that decision a long time ago, I believe in the 1970s, because it was more feasible for the two to be together in one area because it helped with traffic flow, it helped with resource management, it helped with construction of the new site. A lot of different reasons why the two were built together. And just like there are a lot of reasons for the two stadiums being built close to one another, there are reasons for why, at this point in time, there are whispers of the Royals moving to downtown Kansas City and the Chiefs at Arrowhead kind of being up in the air at this point in time. Are they going to move to Kansas? Are they going to stay in Missouri? And recently, back in 2024, April 2nd, 2024, this is a huge date for both the Chiefs and Royals because this was whenever the vote was put out for a 3/8 cent tax to continue being used in Jackson County. It was a sales tax, and the voters decided no. By a vote of 58 to 42, they would not continue this sales tax. They would not continue to support the Chiefs and the Royals in this way financially. And before that vote even took place, in April 2nd of 2024, the Chiefs and the Royals stated that if this tax continues, we will stay where we are. We will stay at the Truman Sports Complex. We will stay in Jackson County. If we do not get this tax, then all options are on the table. And sure enough, they didn't get the tax. All options were on the table. Now, leading up to the vote, this bill was a disaster from the start. It got to county leadership. County leadership tried to veto it. There were pushback against county leadership, so it was put back on the ballot. Then it was rejected. Then there was fallout after the bill was rejected, after the vote was rejected. The wife of the owner of the Royals sent out a tirade or a tantrum on social media saying that they are done with Jackson County. They were mad. They were frustrated that it didn't pass. So that leads us to where we are now today, where the Chiefs and the Royals are looking for a potential new home. So that was the genesis of all of this issue with the possibility of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals moving out of state of Missouri or moving downtown. And the leadership of both franchises said that this is what they will do. They said they're going to examine all their options. I believe Clark Hunt whenever he says this. And they're going to see what's available to them. We'll talk about, the ethics of this here in a little while. But as of now, just recently, the Kansas state government extended their approval for funding, the potential for funding, for a stadium for the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas. They are going to do this funding through a mixture of means. Some of it is, actually all of it is taxpayer dollars, but some of it comes from bonds and other means that the government of Kansas has at their disposal. So cash on hand and bonds are essentially the two areas where they'll get this money. Cash on hand is just money that they have hoarded somewhere, whereas the bonds are documents or notes that they issue people who want to pay for them, and then they'll pay those people back over time. And so Kansas offered up to 70% funding toward a brand new stadium in Kansas valued at $3 billion that has a dome. A domed stadium in Kansas worth $3 billion, and Kansas politicians offered to pay for 70% of it. That's $2.1 billion to fund a new stadium. In particular, they are envisioning the stadium being at Wyandotte County. After hearing this, the Missouri government was in disarray. Obviously, Missouri recently elected a new governor, Mike Kehoe, and within the past month, they held an emergency session to discuss funding for the Chiefs Stadium, so the Chiefs will stay in Missouri. And part of that plan was that Missouri would be agreeing to up to 50% of the funding for a renovated or domed Arrowhead Stadium, and the Royals were also included in these negotiations. So 50% of funding, which equated to about $1.5 billion over 30 years. So still that $3 billion mark. Kansas is willing to pay for 70%. Missouri is willing to pay for 50% at the moment. Right now, the Chiefs brass, including Clark Hunt, are weighing whether or not they want to have a full-scale Arrowhead renovation, whether or not they just want to renovate Arrowhead, or if they want to build an entirely new domed facility. So that right now are options that the Chiefs brass have at their table. Do they want to keep Arrowhead? Do they just want to renovate it? Do they want to add a dome over Arrowhead? Do they want to blow it up and get an entirely new stadium? And then do they want to relocate somewhere else in Missouri? Do they want to go to Kansas? This $1.5 billion mark from Missouri and $2.1 billion mark from Kansas are quite unheard of in terms of government funding for a stadium. So this situation with the Chiefs being fought over between the state of Missouri and Kansas is also somewhat unique because this has only happened one other time in an NFL franchise's history where two states were fighting like this, where there was a border dispute. And this happened with the New York Giants and the Jets for the Meadowlands in the 1970s. So New York State and New Jersey were competing over who got to host the Giants. And New Jersey built the Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands, and they offered tax incentives and state-backed financing. So the Giants were sick and tired of playing at Yankee Stadium in the 1970s. New Jersey sweeps in, builds the Meadowlands, offers incentives, and then the Giants choose to move there, and then eventually the Jets chose to move there too. They're still branded as the New York Giants and New York Jets, but they actually play in New Jersey. So one thing that's similar to the situation with the Chiefs is that we have two states that are vying over or fighting over who gets to host the stadium, who gets to host the team. And no politician in Missouri wants to be known as the governor or the elected representative that was there when Missouri lost the Chiefs and the Chiefs went to Kansas. So this is not only politicians vying for this stadium to be in the state, they're not only giving up a ton of money to get the Chiefs to stay in Missouri or go to Kansas, they're also doing it for ego reasons. They want to be the one that either kept the Chiefs in Missouri or they want to be the one that moved the Chiefs to Kansas. So if Kansas, out of the blue, said, okay, forget about it, let's just go ahead and build a stadium anyways, and maybe the Chiefs will come there, that would be an extremely risky endeavor by the state of Kansas. I don't see that happening. So I don't think it's going to be similar to the Meadowlands in New Jersey. I don't think that Kansas is going to try to build the stadium and then lure the Chiefs that way. I think that the funding's already going to be there in place and the decision's going to be made to move before any stadiums get built. But that $1.5 billion number and $2.1 billion number is what really stands out to me, because the Buffalo Bills in 2021-2023 were going through stadium negotiations, and they were considering at one point in time to move to Austin, Texas after the Pegula family hinted they'd relocate from New York, or they would relocate if New York would not help them fund a new stadium. So once again, these owners are leveraging everything in their power to try to get what they want. Eventually, New York State was willing to pay $850 million in public money for the stadium, and it was the largest stadium subsidy in U.S. history at this time. So that's in 2021-2023. 3 years later, the Chiefs are vying for twice that much. Twice as much as the most public money that was ever given to an NFL franchise in history for a stadium. So they are a smaller market team. The Bills were a smaller market team that was using their potential relocation to secure a massive incentive from the government. Just recently, the Oakland Raiders moved to Las Vegas. Nevada offered $750 million in public financing for Allegiant Stadium. They were able to successfully poach the franchise from Oakland, and there was somewhat of a state bidding war between between Nevada and California, but these cities are much further apart. So right now, it's just shocking to me to know that Kansas and Missouri are so willing to put so much money forward that the totals are just unprecedented. Just recently, the Bills Stadium, $850 million subsidized from the government. Las Vegas Raiders, $750 million subsidized from the government. The Chiefs want $1.5 billion from Missouri. That's what Missouri's willing to offer. Kansas is willing to offer $2.1 billion. Now, the reason these numbers are inflated is because you have to include the baseball stadium in these numbers too. So it's not just Arrowhead is that part of that $2.1 billion or $1.5 billion. It includes planning for the Royals as well. So what are the implications of having that much money dedicated to a stadium? And the reality of the situation is that any public dollars that are spent on a stadium aren't spent somewhere else. They could be spent somewhere for public schooling, infrastructure, the roads, highways, bridges, hospitals, public employee pensions, tax relief for citizens. The list goes on and on. I work in higher education, so more money could go towards higher education. Now, whether or not you agree with any of these is up to you. But offering this much money that's coming from a mixture of sales tax, state bonds, redirected revenues, i.e. star bonds, or opportunity cost of foregone taxes, this is a huge amount of money for either Kansas or Missouri to invest into the Royals and Chiefs. So what are the people who argue for these stadium fundings, what do they say? Their argument is that the new stadiums will create construction jobs, they will create economic opportunity in their region, they'll attract tourism, they'll revitalize surrounding neighborhoods. But these arguments fall flat because oftentimes, and not even oftentimes, the independent research has shown that these are not as impactful as the proponents of giving these huge subsidies to sports franchises. That's not as impactful as they make it out to be. So the net economic impact for these stadiums is usually smaller than what they anticipate. The spending that is spent in that district, that new stadium, is often just shifted from another local entertainment venue. So if the Chiefs build a big entertainment venue, maybe that area will generate more money, but that will be shifted from the Power and Light district or some other district in Kansas City that was making a decent amount of money. The job creation is also temporary, so the Royals and Chiefs don't play all year long. And most of the revenue comes from ticket sales or TV deals. That flows right back into the hands of the billionaire owner class. So this money gets paid by the taxpayers of the state of Missouri or Kansas, and then a lot of it just goes right back into the hands of the people that it was given to fund the stadium. So there's no evidence that professional sports franchises generate significant new income or employment compared to what they currently offer. There's also political consequences because the politicians who want to keep the stadium in Missouri are fearful of losing that stadium. But in addition to that, if they do give $1.5 billion or $2.1 billion to these sports franchises, it's going to create some hostility between the taxpayers and their local government or their state government, because there are probably people in Missouri, probably people in Kansas that don't care about sports. They're not me, they're not you watching this video, but they don't want their tax money going towards these sports teams. And then in Jackson County, voters already rejected this idea of giving money to these billionaires to fund these stadiums. And that is a bit of a warning sign. So right now, we have this battle between Kansas and Missouri, and I have no idea who's going to win. I would not be surprised if Clark Hunt and the owner of the Royals just chose whichever made the most financial sense to them. I don't think they're tied emotionally to the Truman Sports Complex like a lot of us fans are. Most of the stadium financing that will be given by the states will last 20 to 40 years. So there's a long-term financial commitment from the state that offers them this money. And the taxpayers would remain on the hook long after the stadium renovations or maintenance needs arise. You also have a situation like what happened in St. Louis, where St. Louis is still paying off the debt for the Rams Stadium years after the team even relocated to L.A. A good friend of mine was working on the lawsuit between the city of St. Louis and the L.A. Rams. The Rams owner violated their deal, didn't care, moved them to L.A. anyways, and then the city sued. They won the settlement. It was a huge settlement. The owner of the Rams still didn't care because he got to move out of St. Louis, got to move to L.A., supposedly making more revenue in L.A. He didn't care about the city of St. Louis. So a new stadium can bring the potential for hosting a Super Bowl in Kansas City, maybe a Final Four. There will be concerts there, and they'll have modern infrastructure that attracts more events. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to having a new stadium. I don't want to harp for too long on all the negatives, but the bottom line is that funding a stadium at this point is a big bet, a big political bet that's being wagered by both Missouri politicians and Kansas politicians, and it's a gamble that bet will pay off to outweigh the costs. And whether or not the public appetite exists to subsidize these billionaires and their stadiums, when we're really in an era of intense scrutiny for the wealthy, I don't know how well that's going to pan out in Kansas or Missouri. But right now, Clark Hunt is weighing all of his options, and I think that he is going to make the choice that best suits the long-term interests of the Kansas City Chiefs. And if we get into this whole discussion of whether or not they should be getting this funding, whether or not they should be getting this money, I have the opinion that, this is tax money that could be spent elsewhere. I understand that perspective. I also understand Clark Hunt's perspective and the owner of the Royals' perspective that, hey, if they're going to give me over $1 billion to build this stadium, I would be an idiot not to take it. I'm going to use the system how I see fit, that best benefits me and my interests for the Kansas City Chiefs or the Royals. So it's a complicated situation. I don't want to get too opinionated. I just wanted to state all the facts where we're standing right now. There are offers on the table from Kansas. There are offers on the table from Missouri. The Chiefs will be tied to the Truman Sports Complex until 2031 unless they break their lease early. The Royals will be tied to the Truman Sports Complex until 2031 unless they break their lease early. But as of now, the organizations are trying to figure out and make decisions about where they want to spend their future, where they want to build their stadiums. And if I was a betting man, I think that the Chiefs will stay at the Truman Sports Complex. They will have some massive renovations that the state of Missouri pays for. Fans will be upset. Missourians will be upset about it. They'll get over it. The Royals will move to downtown Kansas City somewhere. Fans will be upset. Missourians will be upset about it. Eventually, they'll forget about it and get over it. But that's my stance. Now's your chance in the comments to let me know. This is a very hot issue, so try to be respectful in the comments if you can. I know that everyone has different opinions, especially whenever we talk about politics like this or funding from the government. But that's where we stand at this moment, and I'm curious to know what your preference is for the Chiefs. I want to kind of get a heat check on where everyone stands on this because, information from the commenters is useful. I can get an idea of whether or not people think this is a terrible thing, whether or not they're okay with it. But let me know down in the comments. This is Gary signing out. Thank you for hanging out for another episode of RGR Football. Glad you guys stuck around till the end. I'll catch you later.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.